This is how to play Flip and Find Pet Detectives. Flip and Find is a matching and memory game where you'll race against your opponents to be the fastest to find lost pets. In a 2-player game, the first player to collect 6 pets wins the game. In a 3-player game, the first player to collect 4 pets wins the game. In a 4-player game, you'll play as 2 teams racing to be the first to collect 6 pet tiles between you. Before we get to the gameplay, let's set up the board. The first time you play the game, simply place the game board in the center of the table. Once you've played a few times, you can pop out the tiles on the game board and rearrange them to make it harder to remember where the pets are. There are 21 tiles in the game, including 12 pet tiles, 8 park tiles, and the cheeky chihuahua. Turn all the tiles over, mix them up, and then use them to cover all the icons on the game board in a random order, leaving only the pet detective characters uncovered. Choose which pet detective character you will play as. Then place the playing piece on the same color on top of that character on the game board. Then take the collection counter of the same color and place it in front of you. Finally, place the pink cheeky chihuahua counter on the side of the game board. Players will take turns in a clockwise direction. During each turn, you will move around the park looking for pets to reserve and collect. Let's look at the basic actions you'll take on your first turn. Players start their turn by moving their playing piece by 1 space. This is the most basic move. You can move up, down, left or right, but you can never move diagonally. Whenever you move, you must land your playing piece on an empty space on the game board. To do this, you may swap places with a face-down tile. Note the black and white icon that is revealed on the game board. This will be key to collecting pets in the game. Once you have swapped places with a face-down tile, you may now flip that tile over and see what is revealed on the other side. If the tile you flip over is a pet tile, you may reserve it by placing your collection counter on it. You can only reserve 1 pet tile at a time, and only the player who has placed their collection counter on that tile may collect it. Once you have reserved the pet tile, end your turn. The player to your left now makes their first move. On your next turns, you will move around the board 1 space at a time, looking for the black and white icon on the game board that matches the pet tile you have reserved. As soon as your playing piece lands on the matching icon, you can collect the pet tile that you've reserved. Take the tile and the collection counter off the game board and place them in front of you. You have now collected your first pet. On future turns, you can use your collection counter to reserve a new pet tile and start trying to find that pet's matching icon. You do not have to reserve every pet tile you turn over. If you flip a pet tile and you do not want to reserve it, or your collection counter is already in use, simply turn the tile back over and end your turn. When moving around the board, you may swap places with a reserved pet tile in the same way you would a face-down tile. Simply swap places with the reserved pet tile without flipping it over or removing the collection counter. Now that you've mastered the basic moves and you know how to reserve and collect pet tiles, let's look at the other tiles you'll encounter in the game. Not all of the tiles you flip over will have pets underneath them. Some will instead show park objects, like a pond, a bench, or an ice cream van. Rather than reserving or collecting park tiles, you instead want to try and place them back on the game board. This is a tool that can help you move around the board quicker. To do this, the matching black and white icon must already be uncovered on the board when you turn over the park tile. It cannot have another player's piece or a tile on top of it. If you can see the matching icon when you turn over a park tile, you may immediately place that tile over the icon. As a reward for successfully placing a park tile, you immediately get a bonus turn. After a park tile has been placed on the game board, it stays there face up, and players must now jump over the park tile rather than swapping places with it. If you flip over a park tile and you can't see its matching icon on the game board, or it's covered by another player's playing piece, simply flip the tile back over and end your turn. The final type of tile in the game is the cheeky chihuahua. This special pink tile lets you remove collection counters that have already been placed on the game board. If you flip over the cheeky chihuahua tile, you may choose to remove either your own or another player's collection counter that has already been used to reserve a pet tile. You may want to replace your own collection counter so that you can use it to reserve another pet tile, or you might want to replace another player's collection counter so you can race to collect that pet tile before them. Take the collection counter off the pet tile and replace it with the pink cheeky chihuahua counter. Return the collection counter to the player it belongs to, flip the cheeky chihuahua counter back over, and end your turn. Once the pet tile has the cheeky chihuahua counter on it, any player may now collect that tile. The first player to land on that tile's matching icon gets the pet tile. Let the race begin. Note that you can only use the cheeky chihuahua counter if it's not already in use. If you flip over the cheeky chihuahua tile and the counter is already on the game board, or if there are no collection counters on the game board to replace, simply flip the tile back over and end your turn. You can also choose to not use the cheeky chihuahua counter, even if it is available. Now that you've got to know all the tiles, let's have a look at the other ways that you can move your playing piece in the game. As well as the basic one space move, there are two other ways to move around. The first of these is to jump over a face-up park tile that has been placed on the board. You may jump over a park tile vertically or horizontally, as long as there is a space you are allowed to move to on the other side of it. If 2 or more park tiles in a row have been placed, you must jump over all of them in one go. The jump counts as one move. If there is a face-down tile or a face-up pet tile marked with a collection counter on the other side of the park tile, swap places with it as you would in a normal move. The final way to move is to jump from one corner of the board to another. If your playing piece is on one of the pet detective characters in the corner of the board, you may jump to any of the other pet detective characters in the corners of the game board, as long as they are not already covered by another player's playing piece. The jump counts as one move. If there is a tile on the pet detective character space you move to, swap places with it as you would in a normal move. If at any point in the game you feel stuck looking for the pet you have reserved, you may choose to skip a turn. Instead of moving, you may instead take back your collection counter from the game board so that you can use it to reserve a new pet tile on your next turn. As soon as someone collects the number of pet tiles needed to win, the game ends immediately, and that person is the winner. A 4-player game is played in the same way as a 2 or 3-player game, with a few variations. In a 4-player game, players join together to play as 2 teams competing to be the first to collect 6 pet tiles. Choose a pet detective character to play with, as well as who you will team up with. On your turn, you move your own playing piece in the same way as you would in a 2 or 3-player game. You cannot move your teammate's playing piece. However, in a 4-player game, you may jump over your teammate's playing piece if it's in an adjacent square to your own, in the same way as you would with a face-up park tile. But you cannot jump an opponent's playing piece. Turn taking must alternate between the 2 teams, so if you take the first turn, then a player in the opposing team must take the second turn, your teammate takes the third turn, and your opponent's teammate takes the 4th turn. Ready to play? Remember to check the booklet for a handy flow diagram reminding you of the actions you can take on each turn. Plus, get to know the pet detectives and pets featured in the game.